Hey everyone, welcome back to the Formula E Addicts podcast. It's been a while and we've had 2 races since the last podcast, but we're back now and ready to cover all the Formula E news, of which there's been quite a bit. So, I'll introduce ourselves very quickly. I'm Ed.
I'm Jack. We took a sabbatical.
I'm Joe.
And I'm Jack G.
Yeah, so it's been a lot of action. So the first race that we missed since the last podcast was Picko, which was, of course, it had a very exciting end to the race. But Lucas di Grassi was triumphant in the end, and that race left him with a little bit of a championship lead over Sebastian Buemi. Of course, since then we had Punta del Este, where Buemi managed to snatch a lead back, and he's currently leading the standings by 1 point. So, how do you guys feel about the championship battle at the moment between the two of them?
It's a two-horse race. I can't see anyone else getting up there. Even if someone like Next TV sorts out their problems, I still can't see someone like PK winning the championship. I can only see Buemi and di Grassi. They're the only 2 options now.
Well, especially if Nelson keeps binning it like he did at Punta del Este. Although, to be fair,
he won't want to be reminded of that. And you never know, he may be listening to this.
To be fair, they did pretty well in the test day the day after. I think didn't Nelson get the Next TV car in the sort of top 8 or so?
Yeah, I think it was 6th, if I remember correctly. So yeah, it's good for them.
Both cars were under the pole time, but obviously cars got into the 113, so it shows how an extra day of running can actually help you massively and how much times can go much quicker.
Yeah.
So they did manage to
cleared a lot of sand off the track as well.
Isn't there a rumour that Next TV are going to change something about their powertrain to make it go a bit quicker or something like that?
Well, it is true that
make it a little bit
less heavy. Go on, Joe. Make it sound more technical.
Yes.
So here we go with the very techno. Only joking, but
I need technical, please.
Yeah.
Please.
Well, because of the what they call the homologation, it means that they can't actually change it this season. They can only make very small adjustments this season. In fact, there might even be none. But I would think what they're mostly looking towards is Season 3, and the article I think you're talking about, I think it was from Current E, was about that it's quite likely they're going to drop one of their motors and go to a single motor thing, simply because the weight is of the dual motor powertrain is so much higher than the rest of the competition. Even the only other dual motor DS version, that one is lighter than theirs by quite a way, and you can just see how difficult it is for both the drivers to get it around the track. So though they have to just do the best they can with their current powertrain for this season, next season it's looking likely that they're going to not go for the dual motor system and do something else.
Yeah, just the long straights at Punta del Este, it seemed that the dual motor actually wasn't as badly compromised as it is at some of the other circuits.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And because with I think Dario Franchitti was saying how with the kind of heavy braking zones of something like Picko, where it's quite kind of stop-start, you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
That's where it can really, mess you up. Especially because they couldn't even get their torque, their acceleration down onto the ground. They were literally just spinning up the tyres often in Beijing and Picko. So yeah, with the longer straights, they weren't struggling as much, but you could still see the difficulties. Yeah.
Talking of powertrains, the other interesting thing that I've heard recently is that from Team Aguri, who of course are one of the few customer teams that don't make their own powertrain, and even Dragon Racing have decided they're going to make their own in Season 3. But Team Aguri have said that, I think it was Mark Preston, who we've had on the podcast before, he said that if they were going to buy one, which it looks very likely, then there definitely looks like the Renault e.dams one is the one that they'll go for. Do you think that's it? I mean, it seems at the moment to be like easily that would be the best decision, but do you think that the landscape's going to change a bit in between now and the Season 3, or do you think that's always going to be the right decision?
If I'm allowed to put my opinion on this, I think it's, even though yes, other people could get up close and copy elements of the Renault e.dams stuff, I still think Team Aguri could be pretty guaranteed that Renault are going to be absolutely up there next season. Whether there's a few other competitors, maybe, but all you can really do from your side is just go by what you can see right now, I think. And Renault's is definitely looking good. But I mean, for me, I think the really interesting point here is, so we all know, or well, I think we all know that FE has a kind of cost-cutting or capping system where you have to be able to sell your powertrain to a customer team for a fixed price.
Yeah,
which
definitely.
makes sense. But actually, everyone's saying that Renault have invested like in the millions and millions of pounds developing this.
Yeah,
They've
20 million or something like that.
yeah, it's super high, and they've got
And they've got loads of Renault F1 engineers that they've loaned into the project.
yeah, absolutely tons of Renault Sport people, and you can see. I loved it in I think it was free practice 1 where the cameraman kind of went round the back of their car and then they all started getting all panicky and kind of pushed him out of the way because they didn't want everyone seeing the back of their car. But you
Was
could
that
see,
after Buemi binned it in practice?
yeah, I think it was, and there you could see how this kind of carbon fiber unibody kind of casing for the differential and the motor and everything, and it looks like it's completely different to all the other systems, and they've just got it so lightweight that I'm thinking, how are Renault going to be happy about probably making a loss selling this to another team? I don't know. Would they be making a loss? I don't know, but it's quite likely if they've invested so much money in this.
What I found interesting talking to market testing was obviously I talked to him about, so what's the plan for season 3? He said, well, they had the two options. They could either find their own technical partner and become their own manufacturer, or he said, or it's pretty simple. We are in a prime position where we can look and see who has the best powertrain, and then obviously we'd pick the best powertrain. But as Joe says, obviously there are going to be improvements between the off season and with the homologation, with the cost savings as they do in Formula E, so you can't. So basically next EV, it's a bit of a shame really that next EV are in a position where they know their powertrain is awful, but they can't improve it. They're not allowed to improve it. They can't touch the hardware. They can only touch the software. And you can find gains in software, but it's only minimal.
It's incremental gains, yeah.
Yeah, you really have to optimize. Like that's what basically Tim Miguri was doing this year, was basically optimizing the Spark Renault system just to try and make it more efficient and try and get more power out of it that way. But he said, look, we're in a prime position, but I want to make an interesting point. You've also got Jaguar. Now, we don't know how good Jaguar are going to be coming into next season, but they're obviously going to make their own powertrain. And then, I think Team Aguri need to also, keep an eye on Jaguar, because Jaguar is going to be a big name. If Jaguar aren't fighting for race wins and podiums come next season, then I think that would be very disappointing for Jaguar coming into the sport. So, I think Team Aguri needs to, keep one eye on what Jaguar is doing, because you never know, they could build the best powertrain for next season.
And also, sorry, I'll be very quick. Jaguar, despite actually not having any like serious EV on the market at the moment, they have actually been doing lots of research and development in EVs for quite a while, and it's likely that they will genuinely be making their own powertrain. When, from the sounds of it, other people like it's quite likely Renault kind of got Zytec, a company, to make their inverter and motor just kind of to Renault spec, if you will. It's not like Renault actually manufacturing it themselves. Same with Citroën. It's highly likely that they're getting another company to manufacture their motors for them. But Jaguar, I think, might actually be really doing quite a lot of it themselves, along with Williams.
Williams Advanced Engineering. I was just about to mention that they were involved. Yeah, so a lot of, I don't know. It seems the sense that I get from especially some of the smaller teams that are still there. Obviously we had to say goodbye to Trulli, sadly, which is a. Yeah, I don't know. I guess not sure how much you guys want to talk about it, because it's a bit of a sad story, really. But rest in peace, no more Trulli train. But I don't know. The sense I get is that people feel that with all the money and Renault F1 engineers that they've loaned over, that Renault e.dams have a bit of a, I don't want to say unfair advantage, but they definitely feel that the cards are stacked against them a little bit. And obviously it's not completely dominant, because you've only got Buemi, who seems to be getting the most out of the package. It seems that Nico Prost is sort of, I don't want to say, letting the side down, but he's definitely behind the curve. He's not getting, as good lap times. And I don't know, I'm not sure. It definitely seems that a large portion of that is down to him. It's not just some mystical setup that Buemi
Yeah,
has and he doesn't, because it seems that when the pressure's on in qualifying at the crucial moment, even if he gets into Superpole like we saw in Beijing and Putrajaya, he's not. He just seems to make those tiny little errors right when he needs to be perfect. So,
yeah.
And then a massive one in Punta del Este.
oh yeah. Well,
Yeah,
although to be fair, no, it was Buemi who made the massive error there,
yeah,
wasn't it, in Superpole?
yeah.
Yeah, which was surprising. I don't know. I don't know how you guys feel about the championship in general. Do you feel that that Buemi is that it's sort of going to be a bit of a walkover for him rest of the season, or do you think that?
I don't think it'll be a walkover. I don't think that's true. But I think from the look of it so far, I think after Buenos Aires, then we'll be able to be pretty certain. But I think he's got the confidence in the way he's driving. I mean, like some of the laps, not all, but some of the laps he's done are just look so easy for him. And
Of course, it looks easy, but we know it's anything but.
yes,
Doing it. Yeah.
But
I think he can't be comfortable with Degrassi only 1 point behind, but he definitely has to be the favourite at this stage.
I
think so.
I think he will become the champion. I think that's a dead certainty in my eyes. But I agree with Joe. It's not going to be a complete walker over, but I don't think it'll go down to the last race. It will be won in either the first race in London or maybe even in Moscow. But I don't think it will go down to the wire like it did last year.
I think we'll be able to see more after Buenos Aires to see how much gains were made during the testing day, but we'll see.
So let's look beyond the top two in the championship. Who else has really been? I mean, because you've got a lot of young drivers like Robin Freins and Antonio Felix da Costa who've really impressed.
Freins has been amazing.
Yeah, I'm wondering who's the real standout names and sort of why have they impressed you guys so far after the first 3 races?
As I said, I'm still going to go with Freins because his podium in Putrajaya after hitting the wall and just crabbing the car really heavily for like the last.
Hitting the wall was a little bit of a rookie error.
Yeah.
But controlling it for the final 4 or 5 laps and to finish on the podium, that was quite remarkable. Stefan Sarazan has been quite good as well. Because in last season I thought he isn't that great. He
was up against Heidfeld as well.
Yeah.
This year he's up against Villeneuve, who's a bit more.
Villeneuve is awful, and
he's learning the ropes. To be fair, it's not the sort of thing you can jump right into.
I'm still gonna say that he was past his best. He was past his best in 2006, when he got shafted at BMW Sauber in Formula One.
Jack, you say who you think who's impressed you?
Me, he's only done 2 races. Nick Heidfeld. I think Nick Heidfeld's done a very good job.
Good news is
Let's not interrupt, guys.
Sorry, I was going to talk about the fact that they took the rods out of Nick's hand after Putrajaya and the wrist bending incident. Although that was a brilliant save, you have to say. Sorry, I shouldn't be interrupting you.
Yeah, I know. I just think Nick Heidfeld's done an amazing job. Like that Mahindra car is a very decent car. When it's not it's sort of a top 5 car. But in that first race in Beijing, he deserved that podium. He was there and about.
I was very proud.
He was. He put that car, and Bruno Senna is a very good driver. And I'm a big admirer of Bruno Senna, and Heidfeld has had the measure over him over those first 2 races. And obviously Mahindra did struggle in Punta del Este, but I think it might have been a track-specific problem. We'll have to see at Buenos Aires. But I think he managed that car, and he could have even in Putrajaya he could have got a very decent finish.
Yeah, I would go for the Dragon Boys myself. I think that they've, especially obviously with the race setup that the team does and quali setup, they're obviously good race engineers, those guys. But the drivers as well have just really proved themselves. I mean, Loic now is really good in qualifying, which is hard to imagine considering he started 18th or something in his first race. And Jerome has just been really solid in qualifying in the race too. I think they've done a really good job actually. And battling each other is always nice to see, obviously.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
I definitely think Jerome and Loic are probably the most complete pairings, in terms of most complete pairings in Formula E, and they're definitely the two drivers that are matching. I think they're pushing the team's got a good car, obviously, with the Venturi powertrain, but them pushing their team forward just because they're battling each other constantly, and I think it's only good for the team.
What about everyone saying two people that they'd like to see improve, like in the
Can I just say one
Sorry.
thing about Dragon? The only thing that I think has really let Dragon down this season have been their pit stops. They've been consistently lost places in the pits, especially in the last two races. Is it Puigdemont, Da Costa, and Di Grassi jumped Duval, and then we saw both of them lose out to Di Grassi again in Punta del Este, and also Sam Bird sneaked in a bit. We haven't talked much about Sam Bird. He is actually, I feel, been a little bit under the radar now and again, but he's sort of brought home a lot of points, and he was definitely unlucky not to finish in Punta del Este. One or two times he sort of pushed it a bit hard and binned it, which it happens now and again. But yeah, I've personally I felt quite impressed, but that Sam Bird has sort of been able to get some of the performance that he has out of the twin motor DS Virgin powertrain.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, like you were saying, Joe, we should now talk about some of the ones who have sort of been a bit underwhelming, and I think we talked about Jack Villeneuve a little bit, that he's just sort of been generally underwhelming. But I think Simona Di Silvestro, who's also sitting at the bottom on 0 points, is also, I think, a little bit of bad luck, because in the first race she seemed to have some mysterious issue that sort of ended in she binned it basically. Which I know, harsh to say, but at Puigdemont, she just had some energy issues, and everyone had a lot of heat issues, and she was a bit anonymous. And I think Punta del Este is the first race we really saw where she did a race without having too many issues, and she came 11th behind Frines, so that's probably about a reflection more of, I think, where the car is, although she was way behind Robin. And I think she said after the race some comment like that she went a bit too long on the first stint, and that was why. It was interesting to hear what she said, and then hearing what Sarrazin said. Sarrazin said that he felt he went way too short on the first stint. So I don't know.
I'd also quite like to see Daniel Laps pick it up. Him and Nico Prost, actually, I think were the ones in the first season, towards the first half, really impressed against their teammates. Like Daniel was actually really good in quali last year. Maybe not so good at race pace, but really good in quali, and he hasn't been this year. And same with Nico Prost, actually. First half of last year was so good in quali. Again, he's kind of let down a little bit against his teammate, I think, this year. So I like Daniel Laps. I think he's one of my favourite driver personalities.
Daniel is he's really active on social media. There are lots of fangirls that really love him. There's like a picture he put out the other day of like him and a little monkey. And I remember. Yeah, but he does a lot of stuff. And I think it's always a little bit of a shame. You always want to see Daniel Abt be a bit closer to Di Grassi, and it was actually one point where Di Grassi went offline trying to. I think he was trying to overtake Duval early in the race. The TV cameras missed this. We only saw it in a replay, but he went a bit wide, and Daniel Abt got in front, and Daniel Abt decided, because Di Grassi's leading the championship, that I think, or it seemed to me that he. The way the commentators, Dario just said that, Daniel Apt's moved out of the way for Di Grassi. So I don't know. I think probably on balance the right move, and especially considering that Abt really started to struggle towards the end of the race. Even Verne took him on the last lap, which I thought was quite surprising.
Yeah.
So, you're right. Him and Nico Prost, as we talked a little bit about Prost before, but it just seems that he's making mistakes when. Because I think we know that Prost can do a lot better. We saw at the beginning of first season when he set those blistering pole laps, to be honest. And ever since winning his first and only win in Miami, he just seems to have faded away a bit. And it's a little bit. You got to hope that he's got it in him to bring it back.
Nobody's mentioned Nelson Piquet Jr. yet, which I'm quite surprised with, because he's a defending champion and he is down in 16th place on 4 points. I mean, it's not.
Well,
It's
it's
not
not for lack
exactly
of
what you
trying.
want.
I mean, did you see his qualifying lap in Puigdrà? He was like
Yeah.
wheel spinning all over the place.
Yeah.
And if there was any
Yeah.
more to get out of that car, I think you could. There is an argument to be made that maybe Oliver Turvey is. I think he has been doing a brilliant job and has been pushing Nelson Piquet Jr. But I don't think it's like Nelson Piquet Jr. sort of knows that he has a bad car, so he's given up. I think far from it. And I've actually got a lot of respect seeing. My respect for Piquet Jr. has grown for him. Seeing him. He's sometimes he lets his emotions get to him a little bit. We saw that in Puigdrà. He was definitely very after qualifying. He was a bit upset. Although in the race he did score points, and I think you won a hat out of that, didn't you? Didn't you, Picko?
Yes, I did.
Yeah,
I'm good at predicting, so I've got to do another great prediction at some point in this. So
we got your prediction league, and we've also got the e-grid thing that one of our members did, which is a brilliant one actually, and I think I'm leading it bizarrely. I have an honourable mention to Nathaniel Burton, who did really well in the first race.
Wow.
Then is kind of he's been behind Villeneuve and Di Silvestro in the other two, sort of in terms of pace.
And
not behind Villeneuve. I mean,
okay, actually you're right. I think because Villeneuve crashed out of qualifying into last day, so we don't know what he could have done.
Yeah.
Can I quickly say I think Burton, I'm not going to lie, I've kind of derated him a little bit through the season so far. I mean, I'd like to be proved wrong, but I think his Beijing thing was a bit of luck, simply about safety cars and where he was running at the time, and I don't know. I'd like to see Salvador back for at least a couple of races. It's looking likely that he's going to replace Nathaniel at Mexico. He actually favorited my tweet that I'd said maybe he could replace Berton for Mexico. So maybe that, and if he maybe got a race beforehand, that would be good, just so he kind of got some experience again. But I don't know. I think Nathaniel. It's rumoured that Team Aguri have quite a few French investors at the moment, and that they're pushing to have a French driver in, and that's partly linked into that.
Well, I think also you've got to look at what Buffon has been doing in categories outside of Formula E, and in GP2 he's been driving for one of the sort of back market teams, and he actually got, I think, called Lazarus or whatever, and it was. I think they folded at the end of 2015, but I remember watching him in Abu Dhabi, and he was actually putting in a really good drive, doing lots of overtakes. So I think he can be aggressive, but I think, like I was saying earlier, Formula E is not the sort of thing that you tend to just sort of jump into and then instantly you're, a
bit like Charles Pic was. Some people said, actually considering he was in a back market team in F1, did decent, but in FE he was absolutely shocking compared to Nelson.
Yeah, I think maybe it's he was getting involved in a couple of accidents, like that one with Trulli and Long Beach as well, which was a bit amateurish, and by the looks of things. And so I think we talked about pretty much everyone. I guess John Vernon has been I don't think he's been necessarily disappointing. I think he's another one who's just had a bit of bad luck.
I think he's been disappointed. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think it was good to see him finally get put in a good drive at Punta del Este, and I think probably the most entertaining aspect of the race is watching him make his way back up through the field.
Yeah, because
and that fight with Pico at the end.
Virgin completely messed up his qualifying strategy. I don't know what they were thinking of going for just one flying lap and not putting a banker in. I'd always go for a banker.
As a professional racing driver.
Yeah.
He also got kind of balked by Berton, to be fair. And he had the strangest day, because I was watching practice, and actually at one point his car stopped, and so they stopped the session, and they actually restarted the session, and Vert's actually wandering across the track.
Yeah.
And just I'm not sure where he was going, but he definitely it was definitely a worrying moment, and they immediately red flagged it again to let him get off.
Thinking about Practice and John Eric Verne, and I know that if Jack Nichols is probably listening to he probably not, but anyways,
Oh, I know what you're about to bring up.
yes, he did get the two Virgin drivers mixed up a couple of times, and from that I created the Jean Eric Bird Twitter account.
Oh, was that you?
Oh, that was
Yes,
you.
That was me.
I had no idea. I thought that was just some.
That is me. I made it during practice too, and I just I had to tweet it, and I was so chuffed when Jack Nichols read it out just after practice finished. So, yeah.
Oh, I didn't think you had it in you.
Yeah, I genuinely did, and yeah.
Well, that's automatically the big news story that's come out of this podcast today.
I am going to remind him of that, and also the picture of Jenny Gow when I put a Cadbury's Boost bar when Jack Nichols put hashtag fanboost hashtag Jenny Gow back in October. I'm going to remind him of that either in London or in Donington testing next year.
Yeah, it's always great to interact with Jack Nichols and sort of get him to read out some of your inane questions. I remember I sent him a couple of pretty boring questions, like it was sort of like, why isn't anyone retiring, or sort of what's the big danger at this track, and sort of like really inane, boring questions. And he would just usually defer them to Dario.
I know. I think the way they do practice now, especially with interacting with them through the official hashtag, so it'd be like Putra Jaya Ypres or whatever. I think actually it's really, really, really good. And I remember when I was kind of up at 5 o'clock in the morning or whatever ridiculous hour it is. It's quite nice having that. I think it's good for the fans. Definitely.
Yeah, there was one bit that I felt kind of bad about because I remember watching Putra Jaya. I'd stayed up really late for it to watch it, and I remember that because I remember Saracen had stalled it. Well, he had a bit of a problem at the start, and he had to start from pit lane. And Jack Nicholls said, "Oh, that's his best ever qualifying that he's blown." And I was thinking, well, didn't he get pole at London in the last race at London? Yeah. And I sort of mentioned that. I mentioned that to him and sort of tweeted him it, and he sort of, apologies, and he just sounded really hurt. And I thought, I shouldn't have
not mentioned it in the first place.
But it was a cruel world.
Commentary is genuinely really hard to.
Definitely.
I've tried doing it before, and I get stats mixed up all the time. For me, when I commentate, I do feel a little bit pressured into making sure that I do everything, that I say everything correctly, and that I don't get things mixed up and everything. Yeah. And it's genuinely really hard, and you can see that with pretty much every commentator. I remember a few years ago, I was telling David Croft through the TV, that's not Vettel, that's Webber, during some practice or some sort. But yeah, once I'd done it properly, I realised how hard it is to master.
Just one last thing I'll say about the commentary. Did anyone notice the Star Wars references that it seems to be that every race Jack and Dario play a little game of they sort of say, I bet you can't say this. Okay, I'll say it 3 times then. And
the meatloaf reference, the meatloaf references in Putra Jaya, because Jack said Nico Prost is driving like a bat out of hell, and Dario responded, "You took the words right out of my mouth, Jack." Just brilliant, and then they just started high-fiving each other in the commentary box, and just you couldn't tell what was going on when you were watching the screen, when you were watching the actual thing. But yeah, it was. This is why I love Jack and Dario so much. They are by far my favourite commentary duo. I
completely agree. But do you think that Jack Nichols might be snapped up by Channel 4 now? That's what I read in the blog that it's possible.
No, I don't think he will, and I hope not. I think Channel 4 will go for Ben Edwards in terms of Formula 1.
Okay.
But yeah, that's
but it's.
I think Jack's got a fair shot at Channel 4. To be fair,
I think
Channel 4
will
like young people, and it wouldn't surprise me.
However, I did do some predictions for Channel 4's lineup, and I do think that ITV's secondary presenter, I think we can call him, Andy J, who stood in for who stood in for Jenny Gao in Berlin
It was
and Moscow.
Berlin, definitely, yeah.
Berlin and Moscow last year. I think he's in with a shot, and I really hope that he does go to Channel 4 to anchor the Formula One. I think he'd be great at that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Also, worth mentioning that Nikki Shields' name has been bandied around a lot in relation to this, and great news.
I don't
great
see
news
that happening.
Yeah, I don't know. I think she fits quite well in Formula E, so I'm not sure that they'd be very willing to get rid of her. But I have to. Good news is that actually, I think it's her, but someone called Nikki Shields who looks has a suspiciously accurate description, and sort of it seems very much like it's her. Has joined our group on Facebook, so that's really good to see.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I should really add Sam Bird and Lucas Di Grassi at some point, because I've got them on Facebook.
I'm just thinking about the recent news that Formula E are going to be sticking to 28 kilowatt battery pack, but are going to up the power again. I don't know. I'm actually annoyed by now. Like, I'm getting annoyed. First off, it's going to be season 3. Everyone's going to be making their own batteries, and it's going to, I think it was going to move up to 32 kilowatts. No, okay, fine. So it's just going to be Williams doing it. Okay, fine. And no, it's not going to go up to 32 kilowatts. It's going to stay at 28 kilowatt hours. Okay, and the power's moving up. I don't know. I think it's such a crucial part to FE is to advance battery tech. I mean, that is the biggest element of electric cars becoming successful and viable. That I just think they're pushing it off too much, and you've got to almost. All right, like truly incidents happen because it's difficult to get tech done so quickly in the world of motorsport. But I think you need a bit of kind of pressure to move the technology forwards. That's just my honest opinion, and I think they're pushing it off too much.
I agree with Joe in a way. They can. It seems like it doesn't want to stagnate. I think obviously Formula E needs to just take its time, and build gradually as they want to do. Because rather than just jumping, okay, we're going to do 200, then we're going to do 250, then we're going to move to 280, which was like the original plan. Mm-hmm. Whereas this is gradual, and they're worried that, okay, yeah, we want to do this, but maybe the battery technology hasn't developed as much as they would have liked it to develop. Williams haven't found, the breakthrough that that they would have hoped they would have found by now. So I'm thinking that's probably one of the main reasons why, the battery pack, hasn't, the power and the kilowatt per hour issue hasn't actually moved forward. So it doesn't look like that Formula E has developed much in the first 3 seasons, and we have to wait for a while.
But that's why. I completely agree with you. But at the same time, that's why I think even if you had one other battery manufacturer, such as Rimac, involved, so almost like the tyre situation in F1 used to be, you have kind of 2 manufacturers. I think that would be good because then there is enough competition to both be looking for new technologies, see if it is viable. When Williams are kind of saying, well, we don't want to impact on reliability, but I don't know, isn't that part of the trade-off of finding new technologies? That's my own opinion.
Well, I don't know. I can see where you're coming from, Joe, but I think that the other thing is that we talked a little bit earlier about e.dams and the fact that they're spending, they're able to spend so much, and there's sort of a little bit of worries that it can turn into a bit of an arms race. And it seems to me that I think if you look at it, I'm playing devil's advocate a little bit here, but I think if you look at it from a certain point of view, that they're trying to keep costs down and sort of make it so that everyone can sort of remain reasonably competitive. So you don't have someone like, well, I mean, you are. Someone has to be in the truly position. I'm not sure who it is that's sort of at the back now. I think you've got to look at it. You've got to look at it both ways, and the beauty, the good thing about the technical direction that Formula E is going is that they met the plan they laid out at the end of last year. They deliberately made it so it was quite flexible. So so I think maybe they've always said. I know they have been. It feels like they've been deferring it a lot, but from what they've been saying, it definitely seems to me like seasons 4 and 5 are definitely going to be the big ones.
Yeah, I hope so for sure, definitely.
We haven't talked much about Robo Race, have we? So, which is the new driverless championship, and that's been a bit of a splitter down the community. I think there's some people that just love the idea because it's going to push road car technology, and there's a lot of people who I sort of say, well, it's not really motorsport, and they sort of, why is it here? Well, how do you guys feel about it?
Who's
Um,
going
hon-
first?
Honestly, I like the idea. When I first heard about it, I went from loving the idea to hating the idea, and now I'm kind of mixed. Simply because I love the idea because it's the right place for Formula E, and it is the right place because it's moving that technology forward. It's allowing driverless cars because everyone's talking about driverless cars, and no one knows if obviously with people like Google making their own car and others, you see it that he could like get off the ground, but I feel like Formula E can give a chance for these people. Maybe if Google, they want Google to be part of the robo race thing, but like if different groups jump into this robo race thing and actually can develop the technology and show that it's how good it is, then it's the right place. But then my fear was that all this, we always talked about, Formula One engineers. Every engineer says, "Oh yeah, we don't need a driver to drive a car." They said that in Formula One for years that you don't need a driver, but if you don't have a driver, it's not motorsport.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
And
that old adage, isn't it? Oh, any old monkey can drive it, but it's not just any old monkey. It's a very, they're almost engineered as much as the cars themselves. When you see how much they have to, stay in shape. Like,
Oh God, that about the monkey bit. That reminds me of that extremely long question that they had in that Abu Dhabi press conference a couple years ago for the Formula One. That was hilarious.
anyway,
yeah,
so go on.
but I think it'd be interesting. What was very interesting that Gag said in the last press conference in Punta del Este about it, because obviously this championship was supposed to start at the beginning of the 2016-2017 season, but he seemed very pessimistic that it wouldn't start till probably the European rounds when we get to maybe Monaco if it's back on the calendar,
Okay.
Berlin, maybe even London. It wouldn't start till then
Yeah.
because of technology and just getting it off the ground. So I think it's still got a way to go.
Yeah, I think they want to give it the most time possible that they can to sort of get as many different manufacturers or give them as much time as possible to develop it because it's definitely not work at the moment.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see what the cars look like because I want them to look like proper futuristic touring cars. I don't want them to look like open wheel. I don't want them to look like.
Yeah.
I would love to see because obviously the more cars these are relevant to road cars. So is Formula E in a way, but they made it look futuristic in
Yeah.
terms of Formula One. But we need something futuristic in terms of GT road cars, and and if it looks like a road car, then people straight away appeal more to it because it looks like a car to them.
What teams do we think will compete in FE and then will maybe also put forward a robo race team? Do we think any of them? I mean, like I know that Mark Preston is all very into autonomous driving, etc. Do you think Aguri could have something, or do you think that's outside their remit?
I think that's outside the remit. I think it'll be completely new. Like Charge apparently is one team that's already.
Yeah, a couple of startup things like Charge
Yeah.
to be taking an interest, although they seem to be the only ones so far that have kind of
That's because they're invested by the same people who were basically investing in
Kinetic.
robo race.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
they're going to build the cars as well. And
But what about Jaguar? They've actually done EV/autonomous prototype Land Rover, I think it was, that I saw on for all who know Robert Llewellyn, who gets to do some stuff.
he's
got
actually quite heavily involved in Formula E.
Yeah, and he's got a very interesting YouTube channel called Fully Charged. Everyone should check it out if you're EV obsessive, such as myself.
I'm constantly waiting for him to pop up at a Formula E race. It's just taking an age for him to turn up.
He only did Berlin.
Because I remember when they announced the lineup for the online and everything. They had Jack Nicholls, Nicky Shields, Dario Franchitti, and also Robert Llewellyn. I've seen literally zero of Robert Llewellyn, and I'm sure my dad loves electric vehicles, but I'm sure he'll be extra extra wanting.
Well, Robert Llewellyn's been quite busy
to watch
Red
Formula
Bull.
E. He's a big Red Dwarf fan, so.
Yeah. I've just put a picture of a concept drawing that Robo Race released on their Twitter account, and I'm not sure. It looks to me, it looks a bit like a cross between a LMP1 car from the World Endurance
Yeah.
Championship and kind of a one, those closed cockpit open wheel car.
Mm.
Look kind of like a Formula E car in a
Yeah.
way, especially from the front. But
I think it
yeah,
looks quite good.
I definitely agree with Jack's point that he made earlier that in order to sort of if you want to because because all of these if they actually want to sort of shift driverless cars and sort of convince people that that's sort of a direction to go, then it would probably be a good idea to make them sort of resemble road cars in a bit more of a closer way.
Well, do you do that? It's a very fair argument. Or do you make them look kind of intriguing and futuristic, so people go, "Oh, what's that? Oh, that looks
Yeah.
exciting." I'm oversimplifying it, obviously, but
I
I'm just putting a playing the devil's advocate, as you like to say.
I think we've seen some very interesting like concept cars that Mercedes have made and other manufacturers have put out as concept cars. So I think all they need to do is just make it look a little bit more aggressive, like that picture. Maybe not as aggressive as that picture right there, but if it's a little bit more aggressive and looks more like a race car, but it's still essentially a road car, then or looks similar to a road car. Look at the Bentley Continentals in GT3. Look at they look like a Bentley road car when you buy them. But it's just an aggressive looking version.
Or do you mean like with the World Rally cars as well, and how
Yeah.
they sort of suit them up a bit? Go on, Picko.
I got a remote control Dalek for Christmas. I'm using that as practice for Robo Race.
Oh, great! There was me thinking you were going to have some big insight.
It was gonna be brilliant and very informative and everything. And it's just me saying that I got remote control.
Every time I put a punt on you, you never cease to do something unexpected.
That's just me in a nutshell, isn't it?
Yeah, you're unpredictable. I can't trust you anymore. Anyway, the other thing I've just thought about we haven't talked about very much is the calendar and some of the new things out. So you were right all along, Jack, that it was Mexico that was the mystery race, which I don't know. I guess it wasn't too surprising in there, but the track layout that they went for is actually kind of surprising because it's effectively, it's effectively the oval that I believe that NASCAR used to race with a lot of chicanes, and it goes into the stadium section as well. But it also uses the old Peraltada, which was the iconic corner that Formula One decided to mishap. They decided to cut the entry of it basically and use the exit and rename the exit to the Nigel Mansell corner or something like
To be
that.
honest, I liked it. People started complaining about how the Peraltada isn't
I think a lot of it was nostalgia as well.
Yeah. I really liked the new section. I was just too in terms of Formula One. I was just too annoyed about the first 6 corners. I think it was, but yeah, that's another story.
But moving to the actual Formula E track. To be fair, I knew it was going to be at Mexico City track because why would the local government put all this time rejuvenating the track and then make a new track in the streets? And to be fair, Mexico, the city track is right in the heart of the city. It's like it's like a 15-minute drive from the airport. You'll be within Mexico City's heart within 5 minutes from the track. But if you looked at the track and all of its little runoff and its escape roads, which technically Formula E are using, there was no other track that you could have used. That was, if you were going to use that track, that was the track that you have to use because there was no other runoff areas anywhere that they could possibly use to make a track. So that's why that's been used. But to be fair, then you've got that really nice the old baseball stadium that they have.
Great atmosphere, you have to say, and it seemed to draw a big crowd.
So, at least that part of it, and obviously you're saying about the Peraltada, but the Peraltada does have a chicane halfway through it, so it's not going to be a full wide section. It's got the chicane to slow the cars down, so it's not like it's going to be, everyone was like, Formula E's done what Formula 1 couldn't do. No, they haven't, because they put a chicane through the corner, so it's not the Peraltada.
And I think if Formula 1 had put a chicane halfway through the Peraltada, 1, it wouldn't have gone down very well at all. 2, it would have been an absolute catastrophic decision.
it wouldn't have been. I'm not sure how safe the actual Peraltada would have been at
Yeah,
F1 speeds as well, because the wall. They used to have a big gravel runoff, and the wall has actually been moved a lot closer to the track because of the urban build-up so near.
yeah,
Auditorium Hermanos Rodriguez is effectively kind of a park, isn't it?
yeah,
It's a big park.
Yeah.
Not Battersea. It's not quite the same size as Battersea, but it's still generally considered to be a park with a
yeah.
purpose-built racetrack in the middle. And I remember I was talking to F1 fan about this, and he was sort of saying, "Oh, it's a disgrace how F1's gone back there, and they've not put that iconic Peraltada in. You know, the pace of Mansell past Berger around the outside in 1990." And he's saying all these great things like, "Why didn't they put it in? It would have made so much sense." And I sort of said, "Hey,
Well,
you
if you
know,
want people to die,
yeah.
then yeah, sure, put it in.
Yeah, I did make that point as well. That,
Let's have a few more Jules Bianchis, can we please? Yeah.
And I made the point to him that at least they haven't put in some terrible truncated version of a crappy chicane in the middle of it. And then I saw the Formula E plan, and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't like the Formula E track at all
And
because
I felt a bit like a
there
hypocrite.
used to be there used to be there used to be a little bit shorter version of the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez, but I don't think they've redone that bit. So I think if they had redone that bit, they could have used it with maybe a little chicane on the front straight, because then it would have been a bit easier for it.
I don't think we should be too hasty. I mean, it's kind of like with Robo Race. The proof is sort of in the pudding, and once we see it, I think then we can make a bit more of a
A
judgment.
bit like Miami last year. I thought Miami was going to be incredibly dull. As a track layout, it was just 90-degree corners. But actually, it was a good race, and it proved some good action. So, yeah, let's
It's just the shame that all that there was all the controversy in Miami that stopped us going there, because I mean, I guess from a sense it was kind of a bit bonkers to have a race in Miami, but it's also a bit of a shame. There's been some fallout. I saw a tweet the other day, that I think the Battersea protesters sent to me, and it was sort of saying how in Miami they'd left all this tarmac that they'd laid down for the race, even though the race isn't going to happen anymore. That they haven't bothered to get rid of it, and it's sort of and they're sort of. I know, obviously, you can take the point of view that that's just people complaining, but
Yeah.
I always feel a bit guilty, okay, maybe guilty.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
I don't know. I think some people get the wrong idea about Formula E, that it's just a sport that just kind of goes where it wants, takes what it wants, and leaves. And I think maybe for Formula One that's completely understandable, but for Formula E and the angle that it's going for, it can't afford to be. It's really damaging to be seen like that.
Yeah.
Actually, we've got a lot of news from Battersea. There's the verdict. There was the big council meeting on the 24th, and they passed it. I think it went the Review and Services Committee. I was with Jack at the time, and you seemed a little embarrassed to be there. We were sort of sitting with the protesters in an overflow room, watch the whole thing on CCTV. But I don't know. I think it was important to go there, not just to see how the decision was going to go, but also to sort of gauge, public reaction, because it was. I think so. One of the councillors said that it was like one of the biggest protests they'd seen, in recent memory. I mean, it was only like 200 people, but still, you got to imagine that protests like that don't happen very often, especially in Wandsworth. And so the verdict went 7-4. They put it to a full council meeting on December 9th, and that was passed as well. And at the moment, what's going on is there's the planning permission, and one of the things that they were pointing out to me is that a lot of the stuff they were saying, because there was like the TV helicopter, which we talked about, which didn't really, the shots are obscured by trees, and they seemed to use it for like 3 days straight, pretty much, of continuous flying, which annoyed a lot of residents, and they sort of said, oh, we'll look at alternatives to it, and apparently they're going to use it again, which they were disappointed about. And also the actual disruption to the part in terms of when they're actually going to be in setting the whole thing up is they're now going to be effectively the whole event and all its gear is going to be there for a whole month now, whereas last year it was just 3 weeks, which you sort of feel that when you're trying to say, oh, maybe we can, make it not so bad, sort of mitigate disruption, and you see it's going to be increased by until a whole month. You sort of I don't know. I feel I mean, it's quite clear that I've got quite mixed feelings about
Yeah.
that thing.
Ed, but did you say in your article that you think actually Formula E gave Wandsworth a lump sum of £1 million
I read
now at the beginning?
Yeah, it was sort of from what I read in I think it was E-Racing magazine. They said something like that it was yeah, they gave him £1 million as sort of a initial fee, and then but they haven't disclosed what the annual fee is, though, that they're going to pay them to hold the race.
Well, the £1 million thing Alejandro Agag said in London it was
I may
spread
have been
out was spread out over 5 years, and it was really weird. They say it's this money, this how much money they're getting from Formula E is non-disclosed. To be fair, I disagree with you. I'm starting to disagree with you quite a bit on the Battersea front, because a lot in terms of their protests, a lot of their protests was done on facts that were just untrue.
Yeah, I do agree.
I think they were definitely misinformed. There are things they shouldn't have pushed that they did push.
And I think
Like
if they were just educated a bit more about what was going on, rather than just going, full blind steaming into something they knew nothing about, then
I think they've
maybe
gone
there
about
would
it
have
in
been
the
less.
wrong way. I think it's
Yeah.
fair to say that. But they may have an argument in terms of it's the wrong place to hold the race, but I do think they've gone about it the wrong way. And some of the arguments you've said, like, it's just
I
they're
think
just
you're right. They're a
misinformed.
bit insulting towards the sport as well at points. So I'm not saying that the people that supported it in the council knew anything more about the sport than I wasn't sure that that they're sort of the sort of people that Formula E should be aligning themselves with, but that's just my personal opinion.
Because I was there. All of us was there. But I was there.
Everyone was listening in on the live stream.
And I'd spoken to. No, this is back in London.
Yeah, sorry.
So I was there. I was at the track. I was there at the build up. I was there for a couple of days, and I saw how they were building it. And they formed. The protesters were going on about how many trees were cut down, and it was incorrect. That the total amount of trees that were cut down before, and they were only small little canopy trees.
Yeah,
which
also
would have been cut down anyway because it's a coppice, less like a coppice tree, so they grow outwards and they don't look very pretty. So in terms to keep a park clean and tidy, the council would have cut those trees down anyway, just because it's coppice tree. That's what they do.
Fair enough. But,
so the setup process, the 4 week thing. You're saying that that seems a bit annoying to me. Well, they moaned about health and safety, so if you put it a week, make it 4 weeks, and surely that should give Formula E more time to set it up safely, so people can move around more safely. To me, okay, it's going to be there for a month, so it's not going to look as good for as longer, but that should aid safety, in my opinion. And that was the whole emphasis on the protesters. The whole thing, forget all the stupid arguments that they said, every stupid incorrect fact that they said. The whole basis of their argument was safety. And
the health and safety document that wasn't there.
Yeah, that was what their argument was about. They, stopping the race, it was part of it. If they could stop the race, that was an added bonus. Yeah, they wanted to make sure it was safe for them to walk around the park, which they're fully entitled to. I'm not saying this is anything bad by them. They're fully entitled to go to a park and walk around safely. So for me, for having 4 weeks, that gives the building operators that are there perfect enough time to set up the track and get signs that they wanted to negotiate, get people around safely around the park. And if people can move safely around the park, get to the areas quickly and efficiently, then I don't think there's any more you can say about the event, and the event would stay for as many years until Formula E outgrows the circuit.
Yeah, but I personally feel it's going to outgrow it sooner rather than later. But sort of by season 4, I think it will start to look like a track formally, or just kind of, it would be quite difficult to get around. But yeah, I agree absolutely. That I think that I don't think people are just sort of, hearing what they're saying and going, oh, well, we don't care. I think there is definitely going to be an effort to improve it. I think on balance, all this fuss and controversy, I mean, maybe some good will come out of it, but I don't know. I don't know. So I'm really not with it today. I think I'm just kind of mumbling on.
No,
sometimes.
it's fine. It's fine. I think also for the listeners at home, they should check out your eRacing Net article.
Yeah, I was a lot more sound of mind when I wrote that, and a bit more with it.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think it's time to wrap up. We talked about pretty much everything that there is that comes to mind. Buenos Aires is the next race on. I think it's early February, isn't it?
Actually, thinking about Buenos Aires, I've just got one last thing about it. 1 year ago, on the day that we're recording this, Antonio Felix da Costa won the race in Buenos Aires.
Oh, yes.
Has it been that long?
Yes, it has been that long, because it was on a Saturday, and it's been 1 year since...
Bloody hell.
More or less, yeah.
Yeah, I would love to see...
One in,
I would love to see Da Costa do really well again, and I know from the noises going from the team...
Preston would as well.
Yeah, the noises from the Team Aguri camp have actually been pretty positive about the Buenos Aires circuit. So hopefully, well, yeah, obviously, but I think
we'll see.
They're making a point about the powertrain that they were saying that we did well in Beijing, and this is a track that's similar to Beijing. I think was what Mark Preston was saying, and yeah, so hopefully that works out.
I'd say it's more similar to Puigdemont than it is to Beijing.
No.
Oh, that was it. Yeah, sorry, I got that mixed. Yeah,
because,
sorry.
Puigdemont, I remember Da Costa was in 6th, and then 3rd, and then he was up to 2nd, and then...
Yeah, he was definitely doing very strongly.
And then he broke down, and then
got
started going again, broke down again, and finished 6th. So yeah, it was a completely crazy race in Puigdemont.
Yeah.
One of my favourites, but yeah.
Da Costa alone is like, if you just look at his race in isolation, it just shows how crazy it was.
And to be honest, and I know I've got to mention this very, very quickly because I know that Joe's got to go, but the thing is, I hope that he does choose Formula E over DTM in terms of the clashes, but I don't think it's likely. But I do hope that he will choose.
I don't think he can.
I think it's understandable because BMW's got the big connection there. So
yeah,
and he was doing it before. He was with BMW before Formula E started. So it's understandable completely. You can see both sides of it. It'll be very interesting to see who they actually get to replace him.
Salvador Duran.
Well, I heard they want to put Yamamoto in again, maybe. So
Ed, bring the camera.
Yeah, of course. Maybe that will. Yeah, I should fly over there just to see Sakon again, and maybe he'll stop just for me right in front and do a little wave and crash the car. So anyway, I think that's pretty much everything. Really looking forward to the rest of the season, and sorry that we had that big sabbatical, but we're back now. Hopefully you enjoyed this one. So it's goodbye from me, Joe, Jack, and Picko.
Bye.
We hope you have a great time. And hopefully we're back sometime after Buenos Aires. See ya.
Hey everyone, Ed here again. Just wanted to tell you about the Senna and Prost gaming competition that's happening in London today. Real life me is over there right now. Fingers crossed you'll see me on Formula E's Twitch and YouTube streams. It promises to be great. See you there.